You know how when you go to a restaurant and order a pop, they'll fill the glass with tons of ice? They put some pop in there, enough to color the ice, but when you put that glass to your lips, you're getting mostly water. That best sums up the Acolyte. It's watered down Star Wars. The Acolyte is a perfect example of what happens when a franchise gets homogenized. Everything interesting and unique about it gets stripped away. Oh, it's still got the basic parts. It's got the Jedi, even though they're dressed like extras from a Shaw Brothers film. It's got the lightsabers, even though they look more like bats than swords. It's got the aliens, it's got the starships, it's got the catchphrases.
I have a bad feeling about this.
It looks like Star Wars, but it is not Star Wars. It's watered down Star Wars. Distilled Star Wars. It's not bad. Anyone claiming the show is awful or unwatchable is lying to you. It's not a bad show. It's just not a very good show either. It's okay. Just okay. Some of the acting is good. Lee Jung-jae as Master Soul gives a solid performance. He learned English for the role and he nails it. He's easily the best actor and character in the show. The fight scenes are good. They're definitely better than the fight scenes from Ahsoka. Amanda Stenberg, who plays Osha and May, appears to do most of her action scenes. I give her full credit because she looks awesome. Carrie-Anne Moss makes an appearance as Master Indara, but not for long, and obviously she looks good. The fight between Indara and May is a highlight of the show, and that's easily the biggest problem with the show. Leslie Headland, creator, director, and producer of the show, intended the Acolyte to be a mystery, a whodunit set in the world of Star Wars. The show got announced back in May of 2020 and went into production in 2022, so she had about 2 to 4 years to develop this mystery and make it interesting and unique. And what she delivered is generic, predictable, uninteresting, and boring. And that never bodes well for a mystery. The story is this. Someone is killing Jedi and this person appears to be well trained. The mystery is who is this person, why are they killing Jedi, and who trained them? In a proper mystery, you need to invest the audience in at least one of those 3 points. If you don't, your story won't work because the audience won't care. The one automatic investment the show has is people caring about the Jedi, so opening the show with the fight between Indara and the killer and Indara dying makes sense. The way she dies doesn't. Indara is shown to be a phenomenal fighter with great control over the Force, so the idea that she can only use the Force in one direction defies logic. But that's what happens. The killer can't beat Indara, so she decides to kill the bartender. Indara realizes what the killer will do. When the killer throws her knife at the bartender, she'll use the time Indara takes to stop the blade with the Force to kill Indara. But instead of Force pushing the bartender or the knife or the killer away, Indara just lets it happen. She saves the bartender but gets stabbed in the heart. She sees it coming and could have easily stopped it if she covered her chest with her other hand. She's clearly faster than the killer and stronger in the Force, so it makes zero sense that she couldn't stop the throwing knife and block an incoming attack at the same time. So you just wasted Carrie-Anne Moss. She was the only reason I watched the show and you just threw her away. That's bad enough, but it gets worse. In a proper mystery, the story would spend some time telling the audience about Indara, giving some insight into who she was and why someone would or wouldn't want to kill her. You know, to invest us in the whodunit. We get none of that. We don't know anything about Indara, so that automatic Jedi investment? Wasted. And so is the big reveal about the killer. This would be something you'd save for the climax of the mystery, unless the whodunit isn't the real mystery. But the show gives it away within the first 15 minutes of episode 1. We see someone who looks like the killer working as a mechanic on a starship, and it took all of 30 seconds for me to realize, oh, she's a twin. I knew nothing about the show before I watched it, but I've seen enough mysteries to see this coming a light year away. So now I knew what was going to happen. The Jedi would think this twin, Osha, was a killer, which means Osha is a former Jedi, and they'll probably send someone she knew to confront her because that would create tension. And they did. They sent Discount Killmonger. By the way, we really do need to retire that hairstyle. I am so sick of seeing it. The real killer is May, Osha's twin sister who Osha thought was dead, and apparently the same is true the other way around. Now, there could be some tension here, but the show never develops it. Instead, we get a bunch of scenes with Master Soul, and while the performance is interesting, everything about the setup is so generic and predictable that I got bored because I knew where it was going. Obviously, because Soul trained Osha, he doesn't think she did it. He's also bonded with her, which is against Jedi rules, and he probably knows more about the fire that killed Osha's family than he's letting on. His goal now will be to find Osha and reconcile with her and try to solve this mystery. That's a really great idea. The problem is that the show isn't about Soul, it's about Osha, and so far nothing in the show has made me invest in her character. I hate to keep using the same words, but she's a generic character. There's no substance to her. She's not unlikable, I'll give her that. She's not insufferable like Sabine was in Ahsoka. She's just there, and that's why you're supposed to care about her. There is zero character development with this girl, but you know who does get it? Master Soul. He's the one with depth. He's the one who seems to know more than he's letting on. There's a moment in the second episode where the other Jedi with him learn that Osha has a twin, which wasn't in the Jedi record. They suggest that the twin did it, but Soul rejects this and says that she's dead. But the look on his face reveals the thought that May survived already crossed his mind. When he catches Osha and she tells him May is alive, he believes her. Why does he believe her? Probably because he knew May wasn't dead, and probably because he knows the real reason for the fire. Like I said, that's interesting, but that's also not the main story. The main story is supposed to be the murder mystery, and that angle just falls flat. It's nowhere near as interesting as it should be, especially since it looks like it's supposed to be misdirection. The real mystery is who trained May. The problem is, I don't care because there's not a single thing in the first 2 episodes that invests the audience in that mystery beyond what the 4 Jedi May is hunting know about this fire. That's it. That's literally the only mystery worth investigating, but considering how basic the storytelling is in the show, I doubt it's going to be a satisfying payoff. Perfect example. In the second episode, May goes to kill another Jedi, Master Torben. He's been in Force meditation for a decade, ever since the fire, supposedly over the guilt he feels about what happened. May tries to knock him out of it, but it doesn't work, so she goes and gets poison and offers this to him as a form of redemption, which he willingly takes. The show never gives you any info about Torben or the purpose of his meditation. If May is seeking revenge, the audience needs to know why. We can either get that from May or her victims, but it's information we need to know to explain May's actions. Without it, there's no reason to care that she killed Torben, let alone whether she's justified in doing it. This is basic storytelling. Think about how Kill Bill, which supposedly inspired the show, handled revenge. We get a little info about the people the bride is gonna kill. Just enough to know their personalities, to understand why they did what they did, and to root for the bride. A simple flashback, just a hint of backstory about Torben, a glimpse of his reaction to the fire would have been enough, but it's just not there. What we get isn't bad, it's serviceable, but it's also predictable and boring. I mean, who didn't see the idea of the Jedi being corrupt coming? Of the powers that be in the Order being more concerned with appearances than justice? It's obvious that Osha and May's mothers are going to be part of some all-female tribe of Force wielders. The show is supposed to be female-centric because apparently Star Wars is hostile to women, so the Acolyte is going to be all about the women, which makes it so ironic that the most interesting character in the show is the old man. The only person less interested in any of the female characters is Viscount Killmonger, and that's on purpose. He's the obligatory, non-threatening, ineffectual, not-too-dark black guy. And again, it's not bad. The acting is okay, the general pacing is okay, the dialogue is okay, although most of the jokes fall flat. It's just predictable, generic, and boring. It would almost be better if the show were bad because at least there'd be something to talk about. But it's not. It's just watered down Star Wars. You got a glass full of ice and then this taste of Star Wars. It's the Star Wars you'd find in an airport bookstore. It's what would be on TV in a hospital waiting room. You watch it because it's on and you need something to do. You wouldn't turn it off, but you're not exactly seeking it out either. And make no mistake, this was not made for Star Wars fans. This wasn't made for science fiction fans or mystery fans. This is a vanity project from Harvey Weinstein's former secretary. The concept is so generic that if you pitched it, your agent would drop you for being so basic. There's simply no reason for this to be a Star Wars story, and that's a reoccurring problem with these modern takes on franchises. The companies hand these series over to people who have no interest or investment in the franchise. Leslie Headland doesn't like Star Wars. She likes the idea of Star Wars. It's just a sandbox to play in, and that's apparent in the show. It kind of looks like Star Wars, but it never feels like Star Wars. It feels like someone trying to speak a language they don't know. The words sound familiar, but the pronunciation is off. What we got wasn't bad, but it wasn't all that good or memorable either. It's just there. And if this is your idea of a great female-centric story, I gotta question your opinion of women. But what do I know? I'm just some guy.